Imagine walking into your local grocery store, heading to the produce section, and seeing empty shelves where your favorite fruits used to be. No bananas, no oranges, no apples. This isn't a dystopian future, it's happening right now. Experts warn that by March 31st, at least 10 major fruits could vanish from supermarkets worldwide, especially in the United States. What's causing this crisis? A perfect storm of climate disasters, geopolitical conflicts, supply chain breakdowns, and economic turmoil is pushing global food supplies to the brink of collapse. If you think this is just temporary, think again. Some of these shortages could last for years. Stay with us as we reveal the top 10 fruits at risk of disappearing, what's causing their decline, and how you could prepare before it's too late. Number 1, bananas. Bananas are not just a fruit, they're a global staple. Found in almost every household, they're the most consumed fruit in the world, with over 100 billion bananas eaten annually. But what if this everyday essential suddenly vanished? This is not a hypothetical scenario. A silent catastrophe is unfolding right now, and experts warn that banana supplies are on the brink of collapse. The culprit? A deadly fungus known as Panama disease TR4, which is tearing through banana plantations and leaving permanent destruction in its wake. Unlike other plant diseases that can be treated or contained, Panama disease TR4 is unstoppable. Once it infects a banana field, that soil becomes permanently toxic to bananas. No amount of chemicals, crop rotation, or soil treatment can bring it back to life. Entire farms in Latin America, Southeast Asia, and Africa have already been wiped out, forcing major producers to abandon their land and cut exports. For the US, this is a direct threat. Over 75% of the bananas consumed in America come from Latin American countries, where TR4 is spreading at an alarming rate. The terrifying part? This crisis is not new. A similar fungal outbreak in the 1950s destroyed the once popular Gros Michel banana variety, forcing the world to switch to the Cavendish, the banana we all eat today. But now, history is repeating itself, and this time, there is no replacement variety available. Scientists have been racing to develop fungus-resistant bananas, but solutions are still years away, meaning the damage cannot be stopped in time. Supermarket chains in the US and Europe are already reporting supply chain disruptions, and prices are beginning to skyrocket. Major banana exporters like Ecuador, Colombia, and Costa Rica are struggling to contain spread, but the nature of TR4 makes it nearly impossible to stop. Once the fungus reaches a plantation, it spreads through the soil, water, and even workers' shoes, making eradication a losing battle. The consequences of this crisis go far beyond empty shelves and rising prices. Bananas are a primary food source for over 400 million people worldwide, providing essential calories and nutrients. In many developing countries, a banana shortage means food insecurity and economic devastation for farmers who depend on them for survival. Meanwhile, in the US and Europe, the affordable, convenient fruit that has been a breakfast and snack staple for generations may soon become a luxury item, available only at exorbitant prices. The question is not if bananas will disappear, but when. If TR4 continues to spread unchecked, the Cavendish banana could be functionally extinct in supermarkets within the next decade. Scientists are working on genetic modifications, but until a breakthrough happens, the banana industry is in crisis mode. With March 31st approaching, some experts believe we could see the first major wave of shortages hitting grocery stores sooner than expected. Will we be the generation that witnesses the end of the banana as we know it? Number 2, oranges. Imagine waking up, walking to your kitchen, and pouring a fresh glass of orange juice, only to realize it costs double what it did last year. Or worse, it's simply not available. This isn't a distant possibility, it's already happening. Florida's orange industry is collapsing, and the consequences are about to hit supermarkets across the US with full force. The reason? A devastating disease called citrus greening, which has triggered an unprecedented 80% drop in production. In just a few years, Florida's once thriving orange groves have turned into wastelands, leaving farmers, businesses, and consumers in a race against time. Citrus greening, or Huanglongbing, HLB, is an incurable bacterial infection that kills orange tree from the inside out. Spread by tiny insects called Asian citrus psyllids, it causes fruit to become bitter, deformed, and useless, while slowly strangling the tree itself. Infected orchards see entire crops wiped out, with no way to stop the spread. In 2005, Florida was producing almost 250 million boxes of oranges per year. By 2023, that number had fallen to just 15.7 million, the lowest level since the Great Depression. And with March 31st approaching, experts warn that the worst is yet to come. But this is not just a Florida problem, it's a global crisis. Brazil, the world's largest orange producer, is also under siege from citrus greening and extreme weather events. Droughts and heat waves have already reduced Brazil's output, and as Florida's industry collapses, the U.S. is more dependent on Brazilian imports than ever. The result? Soaring prices, limited supply, and an orange juice industry in freefall. The USDA has already confirmed that this year's orange harvest will be one of the smallest in U.S. history. And with demand far exceeding supply, shortages will soon be impossible to ignore. This crisis is already hitting American households. Orange juice prices have jumped by more than 60% in just 2 years, with some stores imposing purchase limits. But the impact doesn't stop there. Oranges are used in hundreds of products, from breakfast cereals to sauces and desserts. Airlines, hotels, and restaurants are now scrambling to secure enough supply, knowing that soon there may be none left. The hardest part? There's no cure for citrus greening. Scientists have spent decades searching for a solution, but so far, the only way to slow the disease is to destroy infected trees, a battle that Florida is losing rapidly. For consumers, the message is clear. Oranges as we know them may soon be a thing of the past. If this trend continues, your favorite juice brand might disappear, and fresh oranges could become a rare luxury. The next time you see a bottle of orange juice on the shelf, think twice, because soon that simple morning ritual could cost you more than you ever imagined. Number 3, apples. Picture walking into a grocery store and finding the apple section half empty, with prices higher than you've ever seen. This isn't just a seasonal fluctuation, it's a crisis unfolding right now. Apples, one of the most consumed fruits in the United States, are facing a severe shortage, and experts warn that by March 31st, supply could plummet even further. The reason? A perfect storm of climate disasters and economic pressures is pushing apple production to the brink of collapse. An unexpected cold snap swept through the US and Europe, hitting apple orchards at the worst possible time. In states like Michigan, New York, and Washington, which produce over 80% of America's apples, farmers watched in horror as sudden frost destroyed millions of blossoms overnight. In Europe, the situation was just as devastating, with apple farms in Poland, France, and Germany suffering losses so severe that some farmers abandoned their crops entirely. Without blossoms, there are no apples to harvest, and the impact on global supply is already being felt. But the crisis doesn't stop with the weather. Apple farming has become financially unsustainable for many growers. The cost of fertilizers, fuel, and labor has skyrocketed, making it nearly impossible for small and mid-sized farms to stay in business. Some farmers report that fertilizer prices have tripled, while labor costs continue to climb, forcing them to either cut production or shut down entirely. The result? Fewer apples on the market, higher prices, and growing concerns that shortages could last for years. Supermarkets across the U.S. are already feeling the strain. Certain apple varieties, especially Honeycrisp, Fuji, and Gala, are becoming harder to find, and prices have surged by over 20% in just 1 year. Apple juice, cider, and even applesauce manufacturers are scrambling to secure enough fruit, with some warning that they may not be able to meet demand. And with fewer apples available, school lunch programs, restaurants, and food producers will all have to adjust, making it harder for consumers to find affordable, high-quality apples. This crisis is not just an inconvenience, it's a warning sign. If extreme weather patterns and rising costs continue, the future of apple farming is at risk. For centuries, apples have been a symbol of American agriculture, but now they are becoming a luxury. The question is no longer whether shortages will happen, it's how bad they'll get. By March 31st, the consequences of this unfolding disaster could become undeniable, leaving consumers to wonder, will apples soon become another fruit we can no longer take for granted? Number 4, avocados. If your favorite guacamole or avocado toast suddenly became unaffordable or even unavailable, the avocado crisis is escalating fast, and by March 31st, we could see a severe supply shortage hitting grocery stores across the US. The reason? A brutal combination of extreme droughts, soaring production costs, and organized crime taking over the avocado trade. While demand for the so-called green gold has never been higher, supply is on the verge of collapse, and prices are already surging to record levels. Mexico and California dominate the global avocado market, supplying over 80% of the avocados consumed in the US. But both regions are in crisis. Mexico, the world's largest avocado producer, is facing severe disruptions due to cartel violence, which has turned avocado farming into a battleground. Criminal groups are extorting farmers, hijacking shipments, and even threatening international suppliers, forcing the U.S. to temporarily halt avocado imports multiple times in recent years. In Michoacán, the heart of Mexico's avocado industry, farmers are abandoning their fields out of fear, and exports are slowing to a crawl. Meanwhile, California's avocado orchards are being decimated by droughts. Water scarcity has crippled production, and farmers are being forced to cut back on planting, leading to smaller harvests year after year. Some experts warn that if water shortages continue, avocado farming in California may become unviable altogether. And with fewer avocados coming from both Mexico and the US, supply chains are buckling under pressure. The consequences of this crisis are already here. Avocado prices have doubled in just a few months, and some US supermarkets are already reporting gaps on shelves. Fast food chains and restaurants that rely on avocados, from burrito bowls to sushi rolls, are scrambling to secure supply, with some considering removing avocados from their menus altogether. Even if avocados remain available, expect them to be smaller, lower quality, and significantly more expensive. For years, Americans have embraced avocados as a healthy, must-have food, but that may be about to change. If these crises continue, avocados could become a luxury item, available only to those willing to pay a premium. With March 31st approaching, the reality is clear. The days of cheap, abundant avocados may soon be over for good. Number 5, strawberries. Imagine walking into your local grocery store, heading to the produce section, and realizing that your favorite strawberries are either missing or shockingly expensive. This isn't just a temporary shortage. It's a growing crisis that could make strawberries one of the hardest fruits to find in the coming months. The culprit? Extreme heat waves that have scorched entire strawberry fields in Spain and California, the two largest suppliers for the US and Europe. As temperatures reach record-breaking highs, farmers are watching their crops wither and die, leaving gaps on supermarket shelves and a supply chain struggling to recover. California produces nearly 90% of the strawberries consumed in the US, but the state has been battling unrelenting heat waves and droughts, devastating harvests, and crippling production. In recent years, temperatures in key growing regions like Santa Maria and Watsonville have soared beyond 100 degrees Fahrenheit 37 degrees Celsius for weeks at a time, pushing strawberry plants past their limit. Unlike other fruits, strawberries are highly sensitive to heat, and prolonged exposure causes them to shrivel, rot, or simply stop growing. Some farms have reported losing over 50% of their expected yield, leading to widespread shortages and a scramble to meet demand. But California isn't the only region feeling the heat. Spain, a major supplier of strawberries for Europe, has faced similar devastation. In 2023, temperatures in southern Spain climbed to historically high levels, leaving vast strawberry fields burnt and unusable. Farmers who once exported tons of fresh strawberries are now struggling to produce even a fraction of their usual supply. With fewer strawberries making it to the market, competition for available stock is intensifying, driving up prices and leaving consumers paying more for lower quality fruit. The impact of this crisis is already visible. In the US, retailers have scaled back on strawberry shipments, and some grocery stores are even limiting purchases per customer. Prices have surged by more than 30%, and supply chain experts warn that by March 31st, strawberries could be virtually absent from many shelves. Restaurants and bakeries that rely on strawberries for desserts, smoothies, and toppings are being forced to rethink their menus, with some already switching to cheaper alternatives. The reality is clear. Strawberries are becoming a victim of climate extremes, and unless drastic changes are made to protect crops, shortages could become a permanent problem. With supply already on the edge, this beloved fruit may soon be a seasonal luxury rather than a year-round staple. If you're used to grabbing a carton of fresh strawberries whenever you want, that convenience may be disappearing faster than you think. Number 6, pineapples. Imagine walking into a grocery store and seeing pineapples priced like luxury goods, or worse, completely missing from the shelves. This scenario is no longer just a possibility. It's becoming a harsh reality. The world's pineapple supply is under siege, and by March 31st, the shortages could reach a critical point. Costa Rica, the country responsible for producing over 75% of the pineapples consumed in the US, is experiencing catastrophic weather events, and the consequences are being felt across the globe. With extreme floods washing away crops, rising transportation costs, and supply chain issues worsening, pineapples may soon become a rare and expensive delicacy. Costa Rica's tropical climate has always been ideal for growing high-quality pineapples, but in recent years, that same climate has turned into the industry's worst enemy. Heavy rainfall and severe flooding had destroyed thousands of acres of pineapple plantations, leaving farmers with nothing to harvest. The problem isn't just excess rain. Mudslides and waterlogged soil are making it impossible to replant new crops, creating long-term supply issues that could take years to recover from. In some regions, production has dropped by more than 30%, and farmers are already warning that if extreme weather patterns continue, pineapple farming may no longer be sustainable. But the crisis doesn't end there. Shipping costs have skyrocketed, making it even harder to bring pineapples from Costa Rica to the US and Europe. The global container shortage, rising fuel prices, and port delays have doubled transportation expenses, forcing distributors to pass the cost onto consumers. What once was an affordable tropical fruit is now becoming a premium item, and experts predict that prices could rise by more than 50% in the coming months. Some retailers have already cut back on pineapple imports, and restaurants that rely on them for drinks, desserts, and tropical dishes are scrambling for alternatives. The signs of this shortage are already appearing. Some grocery stores have reduced stock, and consumers are reporting smaller, lower-quality pineapples on the market. If conditions in Costa Rica fail to improve, the global supply of pineapples could continue to shrink, making them increasingly rare and unaffordable. For decades, pineapples have symbolized abundance and hospitality, but now they're becoming a symbol of scarcity and inflation. As March 31st approaches, the fate of this once plentiful fruit hangs in the balance, leaving many to wonder, will pineapples soon be out of reach for the average consumer? Number 7, blueberries. Imagine walking into a grocery store, reaching for a pack of fresh blueberries, and realizing they've doubled in price or disappeared altogether. This isn't a minor supply issue. It's a global crisis that could push blueberries to the brink of extinction from supermarket shelves. The reason? A devastating decline in pollinators, especially bees, which are responsible for fertilizing blueberry crops. Without these tiny workers, up to 50% of the world's blueberry harvest is being lost, causing prices to skyrocket and leaving farmers helpless. If nothing changes, blueberries could soon become a rare luxury rather than a household staple. Bees are the lifeline of the blueberry industry, transferring pollen between flowers and ensuring that berries can form. But over the last decade, Bee populations have collapsed at an alarming rate, a phenomenon known as colony collapse disorder. Pesticide exposure, habitat destruction, climate change, and disease have wiped out millions of hives, leaving farmers without enough pollinators to sustain their crops. In the US, Canada, and Europe, blueberry growers are desperate, watching as their plants fail to produce fruit due to a shortage of bees. The crisis is hitting hardest in major blueberry-producing states like Michigan, Georgia, and Washington, where farmers are reporting massive losses. In some regions, blueberry yields have dropped by nearly 60%, forcing producers to increase prices just to survive. The issue isn't just about supply, it's also about quality. Without proper pollination, blueberries are smaller, misshapen, and less flavorful, making them less desirable to consumers. But this isn't just a North American problem. Chile, Peru, and Spain, which supply blueberries to the global market, are facing similar challenges. The combination of dwindling bee populations, rising temperatures, and erratic weather has made it harder than ever to produce enough blueberries to meet demand. Some farms have turned to hand pollination or renting commercial bee colonies at enormous costs. But these are temporary fixes that do little to solve the root problem. Supermarkets are already reflecting the crisis. Blueberries are becoming less available, and where they're still in stock, prices are rising dramatically. Some retailers are limiting the number of cartons per customer, and food companies that rely on blueberries for yogurts, snacks, and desserts are scrambling for alternatives. If the decline in bee populations continues, the blueberry industry may not survive as we know it. The states are clear: no bees, no blueberries. If this problem isn't addressed soon, blueberries could disappear from grocery stores by March 31st, and what was once a simple, nutritious snack may become a rare, expensive commodity. The future of blueberries is hanging by a thread, and without urgent action, we may be witnessing the slow death of one of the world's favorite fruits. Number 8, grapes. What if the price of your favorite wine doubled overnight, or worse, if fresh grapes simply vanished from grocery stores? This isn't just speculation. It's an unfolding disaster that could reshape the fruit and wine industry forever. The world's major grape-producing regions, California and Europe, are under siege from record-breaking droughts and wildfires, and the consequences are catastrophic. By March 31st, shortages could become impossible to ignore, affecting everything from table grapes to high-end wines, making them scarce and unaffordable. California, the heart of the U.S. grape industry, has been crippled by years of extreme drought, forcing farmers to drastically cut production. Grapevines, which require precise amounts of water to thrive, are struggling to survive in bone-dry soil. Some growers are being forced to abandon entire vineyards, while others are reducing their output, knowing that a weakened crop means lower yields and poorer quality fruit. Meanwhile, wildfires fueled by scorching heat and strong winds have burned through thousands of acres of vineyards, leaving barren fields and millions of dollars in damages. The smoke from these fires also taints the grapes, affecting not just fresh fruit, but wine production worldwide. The crisis is just as dire in Europe, where historic vineyards in France, Italy, and Spain have been devastated by unprecedented heat waves and water shortages. In Bordeaux and Tuscany, where some of the world's finest wines are produced, farmers are watching their vines dry out and die, unable to adapt to the rapidly changing climate. In some cases, summer temperatures have exceeded 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 43 degrees Celsius, lethal for grapevines, which simply stop producing fruit in extreme heat. With fewer viable grapes, the supply chain is buckling, causing massive price hikes and leading some wineries to shut down entirely. Consumers are already feeling the impact. Supermarkets in the US and Europe have reduced their stock of fresh grapes, and the ones that remain are smaller, lower quality, and significantly more expensive. But the most alarming consequence? The wine industry is in crisis. From budget-friendly bottles to high-end vintage collections, prices are soaring, and some varieties may disappear altogether. Winemakers warn that global wine production is at one of its lowest points in decades, and if climate trends continue, wine may become a luxury reserved for the ultra-wealthy. The situation is clear: Grapes, whether fresh or in a glass, are under threat. If these extreme conditions persist, the entire industry could collapse, making fresh grapes and quality wine rarities of the past. By March 31st, the first signs of severe scarcity may already be visible, leaving consumers to wonder, are we about to witness the extinction of affordable grapes and wine? Number 9. Mangoes. What if one of the world's most beloved tropical fruits vanished from supermarket shelves? The mango, often called the king of fruits, is now at severe risk. India, the world's largest mango producer, is battling unprecedented heat waves that are literally cooking mango trees alive. As temperatures soar above 115 degrees Fahrenheit 46 degrees Celsius, mango orchards are failing to produce fruit, pushing global supply to the brink of collapse. With rising transportation costs and supply chain breakdowns, mango imports to the US are plummeting, and by March 31st, the shortages could be impossible to ignore. India produces nearly half of the world's mangoes, supplying major markets in the US, Europe, and the Middle East. But the country is facing one of the worst heat waves in history, with weeks of relentless high temperatures destroying delicate mango blossoms before they even have a chance to develop into fruit. Farmers in Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Andhra Pradesh, regions responsible for some of India's most famous mango varieties, are watching their crops wither, with some reporting yield losses of over 70%. Without relief from the heat, the entire mango industry is at risk of collapse. But climate isn't the only problem. Even the mangoes that do survive are struggling to reach international markets. The cost of shipping has skyrocketed, making it too expensive for many suppliers to export at profitable margins. Freight rates from India to the US have nearly doubled, and importers are being forced to cut back on orders, leaving American grocery stores with fewer mangoes and higher prices. Some retailers have already reduced stock, and consumers are seeing smaller, lower-quality mangoes for twice the usual price. The crisis isn't just hitting India. Other mango-producing nations like Pakistan, Thailand, and Mexico are also struggling with extreme weather and rising costs. Mexico, the largest supplier of mangoes to the US, has faced severe droughts, reducing exports by nearly 30%. In Thailand, floods have drowned mango trees, further straining global supply. With fewer mangoes reaching the market, food industries that rely on the fruit, like juice companies, dessert manufacturers, and restaurants, are scrambling to find alternatives. For consumers, the reality is becoming clear. Mangoes, once an affordable summer favorite, are turning into a luxury item. If heat waves continue to worsen year after year, the fruit may soon become too scarce for everyday consumption. By March 31st, the full impact of the mango crisis could be on full display, leaving shoppers to wonder, are we witnessing the slow disappearance of one of the world's most iconic fruits? Number 10. Watermelons. Imagine a hot summer day, craving the refreshing sweetness of a ripe watermelon, only to find the price has doubled, or worse, that stores are completely out of stock. This isn't a seasonal price spike, it's a global crisis that could make watermelons one of the hardest fruits to find in the coming months. The reason? Severe droughts in China and the US, two of the world's largest producers, are decimating crops, leading to smaller, fewer, and far more expensive watermelons. By March 31st, consumers may find themselves paying a premium for a fruit that was once abundant and affordable. Watermelons require huge amounts of water to grow, more than most other fruits. But in China, the world's largest watermelon producer, extreme droughts have left entire farms struggling to survive. The lack of rainfall has stunted growth, forcing farmers to harvest smaller, lower-quality melons or abandon production altogether. Some regions, especially in Xinjiang and Inner Mongolia, have reported crop losses of over 40%, leaving supply chains crippled. This is especially alarming because China is not only a major consumer of watermelons, but also an exporter, meaning shortages in Asia quickly ripple across the globe. Meanwhile, in the United States, the situation is just as dire. California and Texas, two of the nation's largest watermelon growing states, have been devastated by historic droughts. Farmers are cutting back on planting, knowing they can't afford the water needed to sustain their crops. Some growers have even reported water bills doubling, making it financially impossible to maintain production. And it's not just the lack of water. The extreme heat waves have caused early ripening, leading to watermelons that shrink and split before they even make it to market. With fewer high-quality melons available, retailers are forced to raise prices, passing the burden onto consumers. The impact of this crisis is already hitting supermarkets and restaurants. Watermelons are becoming noticeably smaller, and those that remain are twice as expensive as last year. Some grocery stores have even started limiting purchases, knowing that supply is drying up fast. Meanwhile, food businesses that rely on watermelon, like juice bars, summer-themed restaurants, and beverage companies, are scrambling to find alternatives, with some removing watermelon-based product from their menus entirely. For decades, watermelons have been a symbol of summer, a fruit that was cheap, plentiful, and always in season. But those days may be numbered. If droughts continue unabated, the cost of watermelons could skyrocket, making them a luxury item rather than a simple summertime treat. By March 31st, the crisis may be in full effect, leaving consumers to ask, will watermelons soon become too rare and expensive for the average household?